Hi everyone, welcome to this week's short attention span webinar. Kelly, come out on the ice with me, the thin ice. I was trying to think to myself, should I name the name of my first sales manager? And I thought, nah, I don't want to get a phone call.
Let's just say he who shall not be named.
Exactly. He'll come popping out of my chest. Somewhere between Alien and Voldemort. No, I had a couple of very good sales managers, but there were some things that I wish I had known. All right. First of all, I thought to myself, this guy knows everything. You know, it's like, remember the first time, your kids are young, do you remember the first time your kids realized you're not all that in a bag of chips?
Oh, yeah. It's already happened.
And the twins are going to be what? The girls will be
Five.
Later on. And probably by the time this airs, they'll be 5.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember that moment too, where they went from, you know, dad is all this to, what a moron.
Yeah.
You know, which they've pretty much said ever since. Get used to that, by the way.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, you know what? I wish I'd known that this is one opinion, that it's a piece to the puzzle. So someone says to you, this is the way you ought to do it. Instead of thinking, this is the way I ought to do it, think to yourself, that is a way to do it.
A way.
Right. So they don't have all the information.
Right.
They have some of the information. But on the other hand, next point, they need more information, right? What kind of information does my sales manager need in order to get off my back and let me sell?
Well, right. They should have some kind of a sense of what you're trying to accomplish, who you're going after, what big accounts you're trying to land, because we all know those take more time. Many successes that you've had. I had a great meeting. I got to do a bid on this project. So-and-so invited me in to speak to the whole group. It's, you know, I actually kind of classify it as the squeaky wheel getting the grease. Like you should be talking about yourself. You should be your biggest cheerleader and your biggest champion, so that there's no mystery. Now, because what I've come to realize is a lot of companies don't have any kind of formal CRM process. So it's not readily availably, you know, evident to a sales manager what it is that you're doing by, you know, looking at Salesforce or something like that. So even more importantly should be what your funnel looks like, what your pipeline looks like.
Right.
Like, look, if I'm trying to close $1 million in sales this year, I've got to have $3 million in my pipeline. Help me figure out where this other $500,000 is going to come from. Or, you know, be collaborative about sharing that information to realize that it isn't necessarily about micromanaging. It's about helping you get where you want to be.
And so, you know, with that information, of course, sales rep's life goes up and down, up and down. And when we're up, it's easy to talk to the manager. What I wish I had known is that they can be almost more help when you're down. That it's okay to walk in and say, this isn't working for me. This isn't working. I am terribly frustrated, and I'm having a very, very difficult time. You think to yourself, you're the first one to ever have that thought? You think to yourself, you're going to get fired? No, you know, a lot of managers say, you know, I have an open door, but they don't really mean it. You got to go kick the door down.
Well, and here's what's tricky for a lot of you out there today is that, Bill, there aren't actually a lot of sales managers left. True actual sales managers. Yep. You're either dealing with just the senior guy that they slapped a title on and he's still managing his own accounts. So we're kind of thinking sales manager actual or sales manager kind of figurative. So it could be the owner of your company. It could be a mentor that you found. You know, it could be somebody else.
Good point.
Most likely it should be whoever you're directly reporting to. And the trick is, too, to be an advocate for yourself. If it is an owner who has no skill whatsoever to help you when you're sitting there going, I need help, then you have to demand that they get you help.
Right.
That's a shameless plug for me and Bill right now. Get yourself some help.
It's okay. Next up, it's okay to make mistakes. You know, it kind of goes on the last point that you actually, it shows that you're putting yourself out there. All right. The key is not to make the same mistakes twice. That's important. And then finally, you know, salespeople are like kids, right? They don't come with instruction books. So you should be able to say to someone, here's how to manage me. And here's how not to manage me. Making it clear to the boss, here are my motivators. Here are my triggers. Here are the times when I'm going to call you sometimes, Kelly, and I'm just going to squawk at you and complain, and I need you just to kind of go, Bill, it's going to be fine.
Venting.
Yeah, I need to have that outlet. But if you know that you're task-oriented, or if you know you're goal-oriented, or if you know that you need to have a conversation with the boss once a week on a regular basis, utter those words.
Yeah.
Because, Kelly's squeaky wheel comment is totally true. That you're not going to get anything if you don't speak up. Did you have a good sales manager as a back in sales?
I had a couple. Yeah, I had some good ones. It was my first one wasn't, but I also think that was such a gift because it really forced me to be resourceful and figure things out on my own, which
Yeah.
was great. But one thing that company did that, again, I think in terms of being your own advocate for your career, I mean, this is your career, is to suggest ideas if they don't exist.
Right.
If your company's not doing contests, suggest a contest. And as you said, Bill, about saying, these are the things that motivate me, remind your company that it doesn't have to be something that costs them money. You can say, like, let's have a contest and somebody gets a day off, or let's have a contest and somebody gets, something silly like
Lunch
lunch, or,
delivered, or yeah.
something inexpensive.
Sure.
Because salespeople by nature are very competitive people. And it doesn't mean that we want to, knock each other down, but it's fun to win.
Yes. Well, I was fortunate. I had a terrific sales manager right off the bat, Al Polito, back in Burlington, Massachusetts. And Al was just absolutely fantastic from the day I got there to the day I left. And why in the world he ever hired me, I have no idea.
Yay, Al.
Yeah, go Al. Anyway, listen, thanks very much, everybody. Thank you, Kelly. And we will talk to you all on another short attention span webinar.
Bye, Bill.